Hello, my name is Lisa Sretenovic, and I am the Velocity Detective. I'm a CPA and volunteer with Texas Accountants and Lawyers for the Arts, TALA. And today we are talking about how artists need to think about their businesses. So this is Art Smart Business for Creatives. I just want to say thank you to the Texas Commission on the Arts, the National Endowments for the Arts, and the City of Austin Economic Development Department for partnering with us as sponsors so that you guys can get this great opportunity to learn a little bit more about how you can be so passionate about the thing that you love to do and still make a profit at doing it. TALA was formed in 1979, and really what we're here to help you guys with is pro bono legal and accounting services. Now, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that we do, everything from webinars like this to help you with your business and running it, from helping you set it up to patents and things like that. So if you are interested in these wonderful services beyond just this, make sure that you go to talaarts.org or email info@talaarts.org. Also remember that this is one of two webinars that we're doing. The next one is also available to register at talaarts.org and sign up for that before you leave this today. We're going to walk with Melody through how her singing career has now really formed into a business. Like many artists, she's passionate about singing, about getting her voice heard, but the whole idea of running a business, it's a little scary to her. And she knows she wants to do it right because deep in her heart, she really wants to make this more than just like singing on the corner for a couple of dollars and a hat, right? She wants to make this really a viable part of her existence. So while I tell you a little bit more about Melody, why don't you take out your devices right now and scan this QR code to download a PDF, the Art Smart Business Bingo. All right. In this, it's just a PDF that has a bunch of ideas on how you can help organize your thoughts around the more structured parts of business like tax and accounting in a fun way. And what you'll do is you'll take this bingo card, and as we're going through this presentation, you'll make a little check mark on the ideas as you hear them come up. Then you can take the same card and apply it to your business going forward. And remember that if you are live right now, you can ask questions if you are signed in to your YouTube account, and we can answer them on the fly. So again, Melody, she's been singing for a couple of years now, but she really wants to move beyond things like her cousin's best friend's cat's bar mitzvah or something like that, right? She knows she wants to do this on an ongoing basis, but she's really just a little confused as to how, she's the artist. And so the money that she makes from singing, well, she knows she has to pay rent and buy groceries and so on. So why can't she just use that money and just go live her life? And this is where we want to sort of explore how we can help Melody understand why it's important to separate your business and your personal side. And that it's more than just for taxes. So when we start thinking about the IRS, they say, okay, when you are freelancing like once every 8 or 10 months or something, because somebody calls you up and says, hey, I know that you do graphic design. Can you create a logo for me? Or, hey, I know that you do photography. Can you come shoot my cat had a litter of kittens and I just want to capture the moment. Well, when you don't do it with continuity and regularity, then it tends to look more like a hobby. Basically, the IRS says that if you're doing this thing that you're so passionate about and your primary purpose is to make a profit, then it is no longer a hobby. The difference between having a business and a hobby from a tax perspective is that when you have a hobby, you have to pay taxes on the money that you bring in, but you don't get to offset that with the money that you spend. Let's think about that photographer. He had to go out and buy the camera and all of the really cool lenses and maybe the editing software, and all of that costs money. That in a business, you would be able to offset your income and pay lower taxes. But if it's just a hobby, all you get to do is pay taxes on the total amount that they gave you to take pictures of the kitty cat, right? So remember that the primary purpose is a profit, and it's done with continuity and regularity. Now, regularity, especially with artists, sometimes can ebb and flow. And that's why we want you to go ahead and sign up for the next webinar, because we're going to talk about how to deal with those ups and downs in your cash flow. But the idea is, even if it's sporadic, but you have a plan, that piece, that continuity piece, is that we have a plan to make it a business. And as we're thinking about creating that plan, we need to understand how much money it takes to run the business and how much money we need as business owners to take out of the business to pay for things like food and clothes and so forth, right? Keeping them separate is the very, very start of defining it's not just a hobby, because a hobby, you just take money out of your back pocket and you buy the camera because it's what you love to do. And it doesn't matter whether anybody pays you or not, you're going to do it. You're going to spend that money. But in a business, maybe you're not going to spend the money if you don't have the income from that spending of the money to cover the cost. So that's why we need to keep them separate. That helps us really define that it's a business and not just a hobby. Again, if you haven't done so already, make sure that you grab this Art Smart Business Bingo card and play along with us as we go through these concepts. Now, on the personal side, the first thing that we want to identify is how much money do we need just to survive? Now, everybody's definition of survive is a little bit different, but in general, there's 4 walls of survival on the personal side. Girls gotta eat, you gotta have food, you gotta have clothes on your back and maybe a roof over your head. And well, especially in Texas, because we're so spread out, having some form of transportation is key in order to go get those groceries and go shopping for those clothes, right? So you got to have some sort of transportation. Melody here, she does like to keep her girly figure, but she also understands that she's got to have some nutrition occasionally. And so she's going to think about, well, how much do I need to spend on food to just bare minimum, not maybe have lobster and caviar, right? But where do I need to be to sustain my minimum level of comfort? So as we're going through these, I want you guys to think about what that would mean for you. How much do you spend on food, or how much do you spend on your rent or your mortgage every month? So in these four categories, think about how much you spend if you were just like bare bones doing it. So, of course, these four things, they're not everything there is, right? There are also some things that are pretty darn nice to have. And one would argue that in a business are almost essential to have. And two of those things are your internet and your phone. Without this device, it's really hard to get somebody to call you and arrange a gig. Without having the internet, it's really hard to have, say, a website out there so that people can find you and listen to your music or sign up for one of your lessons. The car is another expense that's often shared between you personally and your business, and as is maybe your apartment or your house if you have a dedicated space in your house. Now, all of these are business expenses that can be deducted from your tax return to lower your taxable income so that you pay the most correct amount of tax that you should. The internet and the phone are usually on a percentage basis, if because the IRS says, okay, well, we know you're going to spend part of it, looking at those cat photos that our photographer friend did. And some of it's going to be on the phone to your mom just to say hi. Some of it's going to be spent driving around, going to buy those groceries, and that's a personal expense. So the internet and the phone usually are on a percentage basis, and it has to be reasonable. Now, everybody's reason is different. Um, like my husband, for example, he is a music producer, and he has, I don't know, 18 guitars, and he has amps, and he has microphones, and he has all kinds of recording equipment. And all of that takes a significant amount of electricity as compared to my little office, which has one laptop and one ring light, right? Very, very different expenditures. So it depends on, if you're spending all day on the phone because you're really heavily into sales, well, maybe that percentage is a little bit higher. Maybe it's instead of 50-50, maybe it's 60-40 or something to that effect. Your car, that's all based on miles. Now, there are two different ways that you can do it. One is the simplified method that takes the number of business miles and multiplies it by the rate during this year. The other one says, I'm going to keep track of every single one of my expenditures that is for upkeep and maintenance on the car, including the interest and all of that. Lots of paperwork involved there. And then you still do a percentage of how many miles were driven for business versus how many miles were driven for your personal. So it's more labor intensive. And well, sometimes if you've got a lot of repairs and a high interest rate, maybe it makes it worth it to do all of that extra work. You kind of have to decide for yourself how much energy you want to spend in that. It's the same with that home office deduction. It's all based on square footage. If you want to take the easy way, it's up to 300 square feet times $5 for the year. Now, it does have to be dedicated, so you can't sit at your dining room table in the morning, eat your Cheerios, and then take your laptop out and say, okay, now this is my space. It has to be only used for business. So those are some shared expenses. When we're talking about the business side of things, it also kind of has four walls that keep it going. You have your cost of goods sold. If you have actual physical merchandise that you're selling, a product that you're selling, that'll be probably your biggest expenditure. And then you might have rent. That's if you are you're renting a studio space or a gallery space, or maybe you're going to farmers markets and you have a booth there. The other one is labor. In Melody's case, she is a singer and a songwriter, but she only plays the keyboard or the piano. And so she needs to pay her band, and that labor that she has to pay them, she needs to take that in consideration. And then there's your advertising. Now, oftentimes, those of us that are on the creative side, we want our art to speak for itself. But when you are in business and you are intentional about making this profit, you need to make sure that you get yourself out there so that people can find you. So an example of that might be your website or Google Ads, or even, I know an overlap here might be between merchandise and advertising, might be posters. Think about movie posters, right? You put those up outside the movie theater, and that's advertising. So these are kind of your four walls that hold the business up. These are only, again, only some of the expenses. We definitely have more than this, but we wouldn't have a business at all if we didn't have these four. Now, again, a lot of the times we overlap with these shared expenses. And when we think about those, I want you guys to think about, okay, what is my internet bill on the personal side? And how much of that do I use because I am running my business? And the same with your device. I am probably on my device about at least 50% of the time with business, and probably more than that. And it's not just the telephone piece. Right? This device is now, I'm building Canva, I'm publishing to my website, I am connecting on social media, and I use it because I don't have an expensive camera, nor do I have a photographer. Um, I use it when I need to create a video or take pictures. So I use it significantly more than just one off now and then. And I want you guys to think, what is your phone bill and how much of that do you use on your business? And then when we think about the car and the home, this is where, when you have a business as opposed to a hobby, when you have a hobby, you can just drive your car around. You don't have to keep track of one single thing, not anything, except maybe, how fast you're going so you don't get pulled over. Maybe you want to look at your, fuel gauge so you don't run out of gas. But as far as the businesses, as tracking things go, if you have a hobby, you don't need to worry about any of these shared expenses. However, if you have a business, you need to make sure that you have a log of those miles. Now, like my husband, he is on the creative side. And so the attention to detail and the tiny little things, that drives him crazy. So what he does is, when he has a gig with the band, he has that on his calendar. So he makes sure that he knows when it was, and he knows where it was, because he needs to know how long it's going to take him to get there. Well, that is now enough information for us to calculate, well, how many miles did he drive to and from that place? And it tells us what the business purpose was. It was to do the sound engineering for that gig. Again, have you guys thought about this business survival figure? Now think about it. So far up to this point, we've been talking about it as though it was just 1 month. And I think that that's probably a really good place to start rather than thinking all the way out to the end of the year. Because if you start thinking too far out in the future, well, it can get a little like overwhelming. So let's just think about 1 month at a time. And I mean, it's the beginning of June. Maybe we can think about June. So Melody, she's like, okay, I get it. I want this thing that I am so passionate about. I want its primary purpose to be profit. Again, it's not just because I want people to hear my music. I want to truly make an impact into the world. And I want to take the money that I'm making from my business and be able to put it in my back pocket so that I can actually live the life that I want. So when we're talking about profit, she's like, okay, I understand that that's the money coming in. That's the money that people are paying me to sing my beautiful songs, minus the money going out. Now, that's the money that is actually going out of the business. That equals the profit. But out of that profit, I've got to be able to take enough money to be able to pay my bills and the taxes, plus keep my business running into the future, that continuity piece. So if I take out all of the money all of the time and just go spend it on myself, then there's no sustainability toward the business and it looks more like it's a hobby. So when you're thinking about how much to pay yourself, right? How much is the owner compensation? You got to think about, well, how much money does the company also need to make sure that all of its bills are paid even into the future? Now, I mentioned earlier that we were going to look at 1 month at a time, but we've got to think about, well, what's going to happen in next year in August when my TALA dues are coming up. TALA is fantastic. And if you do qualify, it's about 3 times the poverty level to qualify for it. It's only $75 a year. Well, but that's $75 a year. So I've got to think about, okay, well, how much do I need every month to come up with that $75 in August? So we're kind of going to look a little bit with that sustainability. Again, just a reminder, if you haven't done grabbed that Art Smart business bingo, we've already covered 3 to 5 of the concepts in it. So if you are on live with us today, put bingo over there if you've actually made it. And if not, keep in mind that this is a really great tool for you to use in your business going forward. It's not just for today's discussion. Now we're going to do some, oh my gosh, crazy numbers really quick. Now I'm not going to try and overwhelm you, but some things that I want you to look at here. On the left-hand side, we see that this is the cash that is going in and out of the different bank accounts. On the personal side, we've got those 4 walls: the food, the clothes, the shelter, and the transportation. And those cannot be paid by the business. They should only come out of your personal bank account. Now, on those shared items, one of the ways that you can handle the items in green, like for the phone and the internet, once you establish those percentages, is to create an expense report that you submit to your business. And then your business reimburses you personally so that you can pay those bills out of your personal bank account. So you would write up an expense report. Excel and Google have tons and tons of templates. And you say, my business owes me personally $50 in June for the phone and $50 for the internet. And then you could transfer the money. You could do a business Venmo. You could do a check. You could just take the cash out of the ATM, but make sure you deposit it in your personal bank account and then pay those out of your personal account or your personal credit card. Now on the car and your home, again, those are tax deductions, and those are going to show up on your 1040 tax return under Schedule C. So they're not actually dollars that go out of the business quite, but they're going to help you lower the amount of money that you're going to have to pay on your tax. So those are over on the business side under green because, again, those are those shared items. Now, the merchandise that you had to buy because you're going to sell $1,000 worth of merchandise in June. Well, you got to pay for that. Those the T-shirts and the mugs and the CDs that people are buying. You've got to have some sort of payment for that, and think about your band. Melody, again, she's a singer and a songwriter. Sometimes she dabbles on the keyboard, but she really needs, when she performs at these gigs, she needs the band behind her. And in our little scenario here, she's got 10 gigs this month at around $300 a piece, but she has to pay the band members $100 every gig that she has. And so she has to make sure that she takes that into consideration when she's looking at the cash flow through her business. She also wants to make sure that she's thinking about a little into the future with the studio time. Now, she's not recording a song right now, but she knows she's thinking about, she can't keep her fans super happy unless she puts out another album. And she knows that's going to cost her several $100s in October when she starts going into the recording studio. So right now, this is where she's sort of looking a little bit into the future by putting money away each month so that she's got enough when she gets there to actually pay for the recording. Now, sometimes when she's out and about, she's got some meals that she has to account for, and of course, advertising. She's got her website that she needs to keep up, and she's also thinking about doing a couple of Google ads and some boosts on CD Baby as she's putting her information out there. Now, if you're not a singer or a musician, you're going to have a few different of these other types of things, but they're going to sort of fall in line. Now, this last one here is the IRS, your taxes that you have to pay to the IRS as an owner of this business. You might be thinking, well, why isn't that in the business column? Why is that in the personal column? And why we put it in the personal column is while the business needs to cover that expense through its distribution to the owner, it actually comes through your personal return. If you were, say, a C corporation, then the business itself would have some tax, and you personally might have a W-2 job. And so they would be a little bit different. But if you are a sole proprietor, whether you have an LLC or not, if you're filing a Schedule C with your personal tax return, then you need to make sure that in the personal column, you have enough money coming in from somewhere to cover the taxes that the business is generating. Now, if Melody does go out and she sings 10 gigs this month at $300 a pop, and she sells $1,000 worth of merch. Now, keep in mind that that $1,000 has to include the sales tax on that. And here's a bonus tip in Texas. If you put your merch out there and you say $20 for a t-shirt, you need to make sure that you say includes sales tax. Because if you don't, and the state audits you for sales tax, then they'll expect you to pay up to 8.25% on the $20. And really what you did was you sold a t-shirt for less than that, and the difference was the tax. So she sings at 10 gigs, $3,000, sells $1,000 worth of merchandise for $4,000. Well, she's got to pay $1,700. Remember, she had to pay the band. And a thing on that, a lot of times you might get paid in cash when you're out at a gig, and you still have to pay the band members, and they want to be paid that night. Well, if you transfer funds, say via Venmo, make sure that it's a business account on both sides. If you tell Venmo that it's a personal expenditure, then you are violating their terms and conditions. And so you don't want to do that for sure. And another trick might be to take a bunch of blank checks. And at the end of the night, you write out exactly how much and to whom the money goes. If you don't have blank checks or enough time to take the cash and go deposit it in your business bank account, then another trick might be to take the $300 in your right hand. Everybody put their right hand up, okay? So take the $300 that you got paid from the establishment in your right hand, and then take $100 out of that in your left hand, and your business hand is your left hand. Give that $100 to the band. So you understand that this is how we're going to keep them separate, even though it feels like it's all cash. And when you go and record the money in your financial recording package, like QuickBooks or Wave or a spreadsheet, you're going to want to record $300 worth of income. That's the money coming in, right? Because it came in on the right hand. And you want to also record that $100 going out. So make sure that you understand that the money coming in is not the net of the two. Now, if you see that the business cash out is that $1,700, well, that leaves us enough to cover the owner compensation of the $2,300, meaning that we can cover our full $4,000 worth of combination business and personal. But in order to make that owner compensation, you actually have to, again, do a transfer, do an ACH, take it out in cash, write yourself a check. You need to move it from your business account to your personal account so that you can then pay things through your personal account. This is particularly important when it comes to the IRS taxes. You want to pay them out of your personal account, not your business account. So the money needs to move from the business to your personal. Now, if we take just one more minute, I know that there's a lot of numbers on here, but let's just think about, there's some things that the four walls are great, Lisa. I get that. But, I can't live on just four walls. I've got to have my Netflix. I just gotta. Well, if we think about adding in a couple of extra things, like some things in here that aren't really obvious might be car insurance. Now, maybe we mix that in with our line of the car, but car insurance, medical insurance, Netflix. If we increased the total amount of our personal from $2,300 to $3,000, right? So we increased it by $300. How many more gigs does Melanie have to do to account for that? Well, initially you might go, well, that's $300. She only needs one more gig. But remember that she's got to pay the band that $100. So really, she only has $200 that she can use as additional owner compensation. So she would have to figure out another way to find that extra $100. Based on our little scenario here, maybe she can try and sell some more merchandise. Yes. Okay, that seems pretty easy. But she's even at 10 gigs, she's almost maxed out. I mean, that 10 gigs a month, that's every single weekend, twice a weekend, plus probably 2 Thursdays or a Sunday in there. That's a lot of singing in front of people, right? And oftentimes that means going outside of your regularly, like immediate area where you live. So that's going to have a little bit more miles on the car. That's going to have a little bit more maybe meals and not just meals, but maybe in a hotel. So now your business expenses are going up in order to get those additional gigs. So one of the things that I want you to think about are not just, this is what I really want to do. Well, what else can we do that allows you to express your art that also allows you to make more income? Think about for Melody here, she might want to think about not just the CDs and the t-shirts and the mugs, but maybe she wants to create an NFT, because that might be another way to have an income stream. Maybe she's really good at teaching, and so maybe it would make it easy for her to, on a Wednesday afternoon, do some singing lessons for some kids as another way to get in some revenue. So even though we've got gigs and we've got merch, well, some things we're missing off of here, specifically, I understand for the musician, but our royalties and sync licensing. I want you guys to really start thinking about how you can take this thing that you're so passionate about and go beyond just the traditional things so that you can bring in some additional revenue and it still gives you that creative outlet. We talked about making sure that we have that business column over here and that the personal stuff is all completely separate. What I want you guys to think about is it's so easy to keep your business separate from your personal. You've just got A, B, C, D, E, right? Accounting. If we go back and we think about those tax things that we have to account for, that mileage and the square footage and so forth. So there's some things that you need to have in your accounting records if you're going to have a business that you would not have to worry about if it was a hobby. And I want you guys to think about that that's on the accounting side. And definitely you need a separate bank account. And it can't just be a separate checking account or savings account under your own name. It really needs to be a business type bank account. Many credit unions have them for free or very, very low cost. Another option is like relay banking online. It's completely online bank and it is completely free. Speaking of relay, they also have a credit card and your credit union, if you're going to do a credit card, would also be able to help you out there. And you want it to be in the name of your business. Now, even if you have an LLC, you've already got a business name because it's separate from a state perspective. But you don't have to have a limited liability company or a different type of legal entity to separate your business. The other thing that I want to keep you in mind is that it's not when you start making money that you need to keep these separate. You need to keep these separate from the moment that you decide that you want to do this for profit, right? So that your primary purpose is for profit. This is when you need to have them separate. That's why having a detailed spending plan, like we had on that spreadsheet, helps you understand what your personal needs are out of the business and what your absolute bare bones business is. Now, as you start to grow the business, you understand that if you are going to do something like teaching these lessons, well, you might have to have an additional expenditure like Zoom because you want to do it completely virtual. Well, you need to take that into consideration, put that on that detailed spending plan. And then again, it doesn't matter whether you have a limited liability company, a partnership, or a sole proprietorship, or any other entity type, you absolutely need an employee identification number. It's free to get one from the IRS, and this will help you make sure that you put your business hat on. Melody here is in front of the bank. She's going in to open her first very own business bank account because she understands now how important it really is to separate that business from your personal side of things. And maybe she wasn't doing it very right in the first place because she had done it as a hobby for so long, but now she understands that she really needs to keep a little bit better tabs on her records so that her bookkeeping is good. Having this detailed spending plan actually gets her focus on not just her business, but oh my gosh, now she understands that her business can actually help sustain her personal life and the lifestyle that she wants. Now, one of the things that we have to take into consideration is that when you are first starting out and people don't know about you, they don't know how to, they don't know to pay you for your services or your product yet. So it takes a while sometimes to get that profit going. The IRS says we understand that. Startups, we're going to give you a little runway. But once you get really going, what we expect from you as a business is to be making a profit 3 out of every 5 years. And when you put your hat on and you start thinking about that profit and other ways that you can make money, other ways that you can bring an income in, that's when you know that you've really got this concept of being a separate business from your personal self is and it's brilliant. And I do believe that having that employer identification number as a sole proprietor is one of the ways that you can think about, okay, now I'm putting my hat on. My hat, in case you can't tell, it is blue. All right, what color is your hat? Purple with pink polka dots. I see you. All right, but keep your business hat on when you're thinking about your business. Some other tips in order to help you guys stick to doing this, because I know that this is a lot of numbers, and really what you want to be out there doing is singing and creating music or painting or sculpting or creating jewelry. So what I want you to do is maybe at the bottom of your bingo card is schedule a meeting with your purple with the pink polka dots hat on. Schedule it right now for the rest of the month. I do my meetings on Friday morning at 9 o'clock because Fridays are the days I want to think big. I want to think about making sure that I have all of my business in order. And I want to think about, okay, well, what do I need to do next week? And I've got that scheduled. I have a reminder on my phone that beeps 3 times at me just to make sure I don't miss it. So I schedule a meeting with myself and then keep at it, right? Keep at your passion, keep singing, keep doing photography, keep making jewelry, keep dancing. I want you to make sure that that is your focal point. But without this business around it, you're going to have to end up just calling it a hobby, and then you're going to pay tax on just that little money that comes in every once in a while. But if you keep at it, you can actually become viable at doing this. And always be learning. Again, we've got a wonderful follow-on webinar to this talking about, well, Lisa, I looked at your spreadsheet there and it had 10 gigs a month. Guess what? I don't get 10 gigs every single month. Sometimes I have 2, sometimes I have 15, sometimes I have none. How then do I make sure that I have enough money to make sure that my rent is covered and that my food is covered and my car and my house, right? So make sure that you sign up for that because there's always this art of balancing the business and your passion. So y'all remember that when your primary purpose of your passion is profit, you need to make sure that you separate everything by A, B, C, D, and E. All right, I just want to thank you guys for being with me today. TALA has been absolutely wonderful to support this. And make sure you go to their website, talaarts.org. Sign up for the next seminar. It's going to be in just 1 week. Remember that they also have really great legal services. If you guys are thinking about a limited liability company or a patent or creating a really great contract to draw up with your band members, it's a really awesome opportunity to enhance your business, and it's relatively cheap. If you need to get a hold of me, I am at lisa@visionating.com. That's visionating.com. And I am the Velocity Detective, and I will see you in about a week. Thanks all.